Hello everyone, and welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets. We are overflowing with excitement to have you here, because what we're about to share is the kind of moment that makes time slow down and the world fall away. If the title drew you in, it's because we knew you'd want to witness a surprise that stunned even us, a breath-stealing, soul-deep instant that left Çağatay Ulusoy and Hazal Kaya utterly speechless. What happened goes beyond a reveal. It was the kind of truth you feel in your chest before your mind can name it. Have you ever seen something so sincere, so unguarded, that you forget to breathe? That's the air we were all inhaling when it unfolded. We've been quietly preparing something special for them, something we believed would graze their most delicate emotions, echo through their shared history, and land right in the center of their hearts. We knew it had to be meaningful, not flashy, intimate, not public spectacle. The goal wasn't to dazzle, but to distill. The spark for this idea came a few weeks ago over coffee and a late-night edit session, when we found ourselves talking about how often we've seen them, separately and together, approach life with humility and inner grit. They are admired for their work, yes, but what captivates is the mutual steadiness, her quicksilver fire and his grounded quiet, finding a rhythm that seems to move in a language all its own. We've watched them navigate noise with grace and celebrate the small things with reverence. That was the compass. We wanted a gift that felt like a mirror of how they move through the world side by side. We brainstormed for days, then tossed whole plans out at midnight. We didn't want anything that screamed "look at us." We needed something that whispered their truth. It had to be a little demanding to make, a little obsessive to get right, and completely saturated with affection. The logistics were a maze: timing, location, the right keepsake, the right mood, the right silence between the words. The emotional logistics were trickier. Keeping it secret from Hazal was a mission on its own. She notices everything, reads a room in seconds, and has a radar for anything that doesn't sit where it should. We double-labeled boxes, used decoy group chats, and invented a fake tech test just to throw her off the scent. We chose a place that means something to them, a tucked-away corner layered with memories, the hush of late rehearsals, the rustle of scripts, the soft echoes of laughter long after the crew had gone home. It's not flashy, it's faithful. That's why it felt right. On the day of the surprise, the air itself seemed to hum. Every one of us involved was a bundle of nerves and anticipation, trying to act normal while our hearts did drum rolls. In true form, Çağatay was calm and unhurried, drifting from one curious detail to the next with that focused ease he's known for, blissfully unaware of what had been constructed just out of sight. Hazal, on the other hand, felt the shift immediately. You could see it in the way her eyes scanned, how she lingered near the hallway that leads to the old soundstage doors, how her smile held a question as if her instincts were tugging at a loose thread no one else could see. She didn't say it, but the spark in her gaze told us our cover was thinning by the second. We dimmed the lights, opened the doors, and guided them in. The space was transformed but familiar, curated to feel like a living memory, soft projections drifting across the walls, the faintest scent of jasmine that always clings to stories set at dusk, and, at the center, what we had crafted, a piece woven from fragments of their timeline, built from the details that most people never notice. We stepped back and let the room breathe for them. They looked at each other first, as if searching for the other's pulse before daring to react. Then their eyes moved to the centerpiece, and the shock hit like a wave. Their expressions went wonderfully blank, like their minds were racing too fast for words to catch up. The room got quiet in a way that felt loud with meaning. Neither of them spoke. No one did. The silence stretched, not awkward, not heavy, sacred, somehow. It was Hazal who moved first. She lifted a hand to her mouth, and her eyes brimmed, the way someone looks when the past taps the present on the shoulder and everything lines up at once. She inhaled, and you could feel the air change. Beside her, you could see the moment land in Çağatay's chest. He didn't reach for a sentence, he reached for her. His embrace was word enough. Solid, protective, threaded with all the years of looking at one another and choosing to stay soft in a world that rewards steel. He held her close, and she held on, and in that simple contact, something unspoken was allowed to exist completely: gratitude for all they've carried, for who they are when the cameras stop, for what they mean to each other when no one is clapping. Their eyes met, and you could almost hear the thanks traveling between them without needing sound. It became obvious to us then that the point of a surprise isn't the surprise itself. It's the intention stitched into it, how care can be a craft, how love can be an editor's cut that removes the noise and keeps only what matters. Watching their faces shift from disbelief to recognition to shimmering joy was more than a reaction. It was the purest affirmation that we had aimed in the right direction. After that first surge, words finally returned to the room like birds finding their way home. They asked questions with voices still unsteady, laughed at the details we'd tucked in for them, and traced the edges of memories we'd embedded in the design. Hazal told a story, half whisper, half laughter, about a night when the power failed on set and they lit the scene with phone flashlights, turning mishap into magic. Çağatay chimed in, recalling how they learned to read each other's silences better than dialogue, and how sometimes the best scene partner is the one who knows when not to speak. Gratitude spilled out of them, not in grand declarations, but in the way their sentences kept circling back to intention, to effort, to how seen they felt. For all of us who had plotted and timed and kept secrets with careful hands, the room felt warm in a way that wasn't just temperature. It was the warmth of recognition, that rare feeling when people understand that something was made for them, not at them. Even in the middle of all that emotion, they kept looking at each other as if discovering a familiar vista at sunrise and realizing it still has new colors to show. That look, that gleam of mutual regard, was the part that stayed with us. It said, "This is still new." It said, "I still choose you." Experiences like this remind us why we make space for ceremony in ordinary life. We rush so much. We skim so much. But choosing to slow the world down and honor a bond is an act of care that feeds everyone in the room. This wasn't just a present for them. It was a gift for anyone lucky enough to witness two people allow tenderness to be the loudest thing. It told us that, when you give with sincerity, it doesn't dilute, it multiplies. The joy didn't sit in the object, it lived in the devotion poured into every quiet choice on the way to this day. We could unspool every thread of how it came together, tell you how many times we changed the lighting plan, how we rehearsed the cue for the reveal and almost blew it when someone sneezed at the wrong time, how we rewired the audio so their steps would make the smallest sound as they crossed the threshold. But the truth is, none of that matters as much as being in the room when something lands right where it should. That's why we put our hearts into editing this video. Not to show off, but to put you in that space with us, to let you feel the hush, the laughter, the first glimmer of tears, the relief of the embrace. In the end, what we witnessed was a constellation of feelings, the shock, the wonder, the irresistible rise of joy, and that long hug that said more than any thank you could. It was a living proof that relationships aren't built on grand gestures alone, but on the quiet agreement to keep paying attention. Watching Hazal and Çağatay stand there, holding a piece of their own story, reminded us of what matters most, not perfection, but presence, not spectacle, but sincerity. If you've stayed with us through this journey, thank you. We hope it moved you the way it moved us. Tell us, have you ever been surprised in a way that took the words right out of your mouth? What is the foundation you cherish most in your own relationships? We love reading your reflections, they shape what we create and why. If this moment brought a smile, a tear, or that warm quiet that settles in the chest when something true is honored, please tap like, share it with someone who loves a tender story, and subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter we're crafting. Your support keeps this little light burning here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, where we'll keep seeking, filming, and sharing the scenes that help us all remember what love looks like when it's looking back.